This is episode 31 with international best-selling author, women in leadership consultant, and global thought leader, Gabrielle Sankar. Hello and welcome to another episode of the UV Effect. This episode, we're going to be interviewing Miss Gabrielle Sankar, and she is I guess you could say, an advocate, a focused speaker on the concept of confidence and what she calls the confidence factor. So in this interview, we're going to be talking about confidence, what that means, and specifically how women entrepreneurs, women business owners can get a hold of it, and why we struggle with it so much. We talk about some of the issues that women have had throughout, the years when it comes to the way that we've been treated and how that really does affect the confidence that we have when it comes to putting ourselves out there in the real world, whether it be in business, whether it be in a job. We often lack the confidence that we need to ask for the things that we want to get, that we want, and also go after the things that we want to get, and also achieve success. We often lack that confidence, and it is difficult for us because of a lot of the struggles that we have gone through, and some of the struggles we're still pushing through. So in this interview, Miss Gabrielle, she talks a lot about that history that we have had to push through, and some of the issues that we are still pushing through today. We talk about the confidence factor and what that means, and how women can develop it as entrepreneurs and as leaders. So it's a really good interview because it really does. We talk a lot about, of course, the UV effect, unique value that really comes into play, of course, in this interview because it really does tie together in the sense that I believe that we can develop more confidence in ourselves once we realize what it is that we can actually bring to the table, and that once we have a full understanding of what it is we can bring to the table. And Miss Gabrielle, she talks a lot about how a lot of she takes a moment to talk about kind of like that idea of faking it till you make it. We go through a bit of a spiel there talking about how important it is as women to at least walk into a room presenting confidence, even if you're not 100% confident, because people can often see right through you if you are lacking the confidence that you need to represent yourself and to be present and to do what you need to do in order to make those connections and to achieve that level of success you want to achieve. I feel like it was a very fun conversation, but it was also a very, very informative conversation, at least for me, and I am fairly sure that you all will definitely pull something when it comes to confidence. I learned a lot about myself when it comes to my lack of confidence in certain areas and how I can grow and be better, because we can all grow and be better when it comes to what we think about ourselves, what we feel about ourselves, and what we believe that we can do with our skills and with our talents and with our gifts. So again, a fantastic interview, pulled so much from it, and it really encompasses the idea of the UV effect, what the outcome is of the UV effect, and why it's so important when it comes to being a woman, being a business owner, and really wanting to put yourself out there and make your mark on the world. So, again, I'm excited for you guys to listen to this one. I'm excited for you guys to take your notes, take out your pen and pencil, and and your paper, and get ready for some notes. Without further ado, let us jump into this interview with Miss Gabrielle Sankar. Welcome, Miss Gabrielle. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored.
I am excited to have you on the show. I have so few things I want to talk to you about. I know with you, your company, what you focus on is all about confidence, and especially when it comes to women. And that's something that I have realized that, even in myself as well, is something that women often lack more than men do. But before we get into that kind of conversation, talk more about that, I want to start off with talking about you and talking about, how you found this place and got to the place that you are. I was doing a little bit of research on you. Of course, I hope it's not creepy, but I was doing a bit of research on you, and I learned that you actually started off with this company that you were working with, where you did consulting for different other businesses and other companies, and you often worked more with men than you did with women.
Yeah.
So why did you and how did you make this transition to focusing more on women and building women's opportunities for success? How did you make that transfer?
I'm ashamed and proud to say that I wasn't a feminist all these days. So if you backtrack a little bit, even though what I do today really concentrates more on women, I come from a legal background. So went to law school. I thought I was going to be this highfalutin lawyer. And in the legal industry, there are very few women, and there are very few women who get to partnership level opportunities. So a lot of women are fighting to getting a seat at the table. Right. So when I gave up on that idea and I did this thing called motherhood, it changed my life completely, right? Because before I became a mother, I think I was resisting this feminine aspect. I was like, I can just go into all these hyper masculine industries. Then when I had my son, I went into real estate and I started to then take a little bit more of an introspective look at the fact that I'm a woman now. I always knew I was, but I'm a woman now and I'm a mother. Yeah. And there are no other women in these rooms that I'm in. And I don't think I'd looked at it before. I would say, thank God for my son, because I don't think I was paying attention all the time before he was born, because I didn't have a reason to, because at that point I didn't have to worry about what time to get home or what time the formula needed to be done. I didn't have to worry about those things. Now you have to be home by a certain time. The kid needs a diaper change. It was a little bit different. And then I started to say that there are women who are just as intelligent, but they're not in the room. So then it started to shift my way of thinking. And I wanted to know why weren't women in the room. And that's how the confidence factor was born. It was just being inquisitive into figuring out, I know that women have the skills, the knowledge, the everything, but why weren't they getting in the room? And that's kind of where the metamorphosis came from, working with men into working with women, actually kind of gravitated toward.
And that is a good question, wondering why women aren't in the room, because you look especially in those high power positions. And as I talked with a few people on the show that deal with diversity and bringing women into, bringing their seat to the table, finding their seats at the table, that's a main question. Why aren't women in the room? Like you said, they have the capability, they have the abilities to do certain things, who just aren't in that room. And what you have found throughout your journey and answering that question is that a key aspect of it is confidence, and somewhat a lack of confidence that women do have to define their seat, to speak up, to define their roles, and to be confident enough to stand their ground. So you started a company that's called the Confidence Factor for Women in Leadership, where you really focus on developing confidence in women that are entrepreneurs, that are in business, and other things. So can you tell us a little bit more about this company and what you do?
So when I birthed the Confidence Factor for Women in Leadership, it really is not something, and this is why I always clarify, I'm nobody's motivational speaker by no way, shape, or form. What I literally did is 2010, my son was about, at that time, 4 or something like that, and he was getting ready to go into school. And that's when I had a lot more free time on my hand, because, when kids go to school, you kind of have that 8 to 3 window. I was like, yay, I got it. Thank you, Jesus. Anyway, I started to get back into real estate development because I had taken some time off. And then when I started that journey and I started noticing that I was going into rooms and there was the only woman in the room, I started to become a little bit more curious. So I started this study, literally as a resource study, to be able to bring 100 women together for 2 years. That's how it started. And what we were going to do is I was going to bring them in various capacities, either virtual or in person. They were all pre-vetted. These were 100 women who had been in my alignment at some point, and say, hey, look, I'm not trying to turn you into real estate investors. What I'm trying to say is that I'm in these rooms with these multi-billion-dollar funds, these venture capitalists. I'm in these rooms. I'm very, very alone in these rooms. I'm the only woman of color in the room, the only Caribbean woman in the room. I'm the only woman in the room. I'm the youngest in the room. And I want to know why you're not there. So I thought that if I brought you the resource, what you would do is, now that you have the resource to get in there, whether you said you needed a coach or whether you needed a mentor, an advisor, a sponsor, money, whatever it is you needed, I brought it to the table for all of these women. So at the end of 2 years, nothing happened. It was like dead silence. If you drop a pin, nothing changed. So we did it for 2 more years. And in 2014, I had to end the study or else I would have babysat them forever. And then what we discovered is we had a 99% failure rate where women just weren't taking action. They were in their own way. It was a lot of this whole, I can't get ahead. I've tried. And the part of the confidence factor that even if you look at my TED Talk and other things that I can't discuss, is that several people died while we were doing the confidence factor because they waited so long to make a phone call or to send out an email or to just reach out, to have a Skype meeting. They waited so long that the person they needed to talk to had died. I went to 3 funerals during that time. And I started to realize that it was simply confidence. We brokered deals for women. When I say brokered deals, this is maybe a little bit out of your age range a little bit, but when we say brokered deals, I brokered, you needed 5 million. I brokered the deal for you to get the 5 million. All you had to do is make a phone call. And these women couldn't do that. And it was that self-doubt, that self-pity, that self-reliance on someone else and needing a script and needing that anchor that really birthed the confidence factor. So here's how I discovered the confidence factor. I wanted to give women a way for them to look at themselves in a different way. Because we have a lot of people out here that motivate you, and that's great. And I'm not disrespecting that space at all. But some of it is our own lack of accountability. After you're motivated, what are you doing with that as fuel to be able to get to the next level? And so that's why the confidence factor is very important to me, because I've watched women waste time by sitting back and not doing the simple things, by complicating the simple things. And the complex things they're doing, but the simple things, the picking up of a phone, the showing up to a meeting, they can't do. But the complicated things like writing a book, you can do. Like going on tour, you can do, but you can't call John. It was like ridiculous to me. So that's how I birthed the confidence factor.
And I can really understand that whole comparison where it's easier for you to do more of those complicated things than those simpler tasks of just calling someone, because for me, I'm more of an introvert. And so I am the kind of person that will easily write a whole book or, even go on stage and speak, but to talk one-on-one with somebody or to go on the phone and call somebody is more of a task for me, because I have to build up a certain amount of I guess stamina or even confidence in myself to be able to really say what I want to say with clarity and be sure that I'm coming across the right way. And so I see that I would say that I'm a very confident person, but I think everybody has a little bit of a lack of confidence in some area. And I definitely, I can relate to that area where it's harder to talk to somebody and to speak with somebody. That's something I think just people that needs to be worked on, because of course, that's important in business and crucial for business. And really in building relationships in general, making those moves. So I think it is really important what you're doing there with the confidence factor, being able to teach just those simple tasks, being able to have the confidence in the simplest things can really make such a difference in the long run. So several times in the show, I talked about earlier that I've had people on the show that talk about diversity, talked about women and how they aren't really in, they don't really have their seats defined, at the table. They aren't really in the high power roles as much as they really should be. And we've talked about, what the root of that problem is and how it really stems back way back in history, talking about, how women were treated in the past and how that's kind of still affecting how we interact with people now, with the confidence that we have in ourselves now. But I think now it's important that we are able to understand the solution, or able to, get to a solution, so we can figure out how do we develop confidence for ourselves, how do we break through those issues that we have been facing for years, and really be able to be confident enough to use our voices and to do what we know we are capable of doing. So my question is, what would you say, or how would a woman define confidence for herself? How can she find what she should be confident in within her?
Well, it's those little things you dream about, right? So it's those, for me, confidence has always been, I remember when I came to this country and I turned the TV on and I saw a lawyer for the first time. That is confidence to me. I wanted to find a way to be that thing and all the steps in between to be able to go down that journey. I knew it wasn't going to be easy. I knew it wasn't going to be something that I could just do I knew there was schooling, I knew there was training, I knew there were bags, I knew all of this stuff was about to take place. I think many of us think we underestimate the power of a journey. And so we underestimate what it really takes to get ahead. And the moment that we get a setback as women, we traditionally get away from it. We kind of like, okay, forget it. I'm not going to do it. Right. And I have this thing that I talk about a lot where we lower our standards to fit the barrier. So you find there's no seat at the table, you say, oh, I don't need one, I'll stand up. Or you find that there's no opportunity in your business to go to 7 and 8 figures. Oh, okay, well, I'll settle for 6. Or you find that you want to write a book and can't quite get it out there. Oh, I'll just do an ebook. So we do a lot of this lowering our standards so we can be as confident as our competency and not as confident as we need to be. So how do you get your confidence back? You look at the barrier as, number one, there's a lesson to learn why there's a barrier in front of you. The second thing is you have to be able to learn how to get strategic about breaking down the barrier. And then the third thing is that you have to understand that there are going to be more barriers after you break down that barrier. Because every barrier in front of you is really about, oh, she was strong enough to break down that one. Okay, now she can get to the next one. Okay, she was strong. So there are going to be more barriers. And no matter how successful you become, there's always another barrier coming. I think that once we get to a point where we can accept that there will be a barrier, you'll be more confident into knowing when you get resistance, instead of lowering your confidence to get able to be in the competency of your ability, you heighten the level of your competency. You just say, you know what, I still want 7 figures. I still want 8 figures. I still want a seat at the table. I'm going to keep going, instead of saying, I'll just dummy down a little bit, because that's what we do. We dummy down just enough. Yeah. And we just say, okay, that's it. And then we're okay with that. We have to stop settling. And as women, I watch too many times. I have these conversations every day, and I'm going gray having these conversations naturally with trying to get women to get this. Stop lowering your standards to fit the market. You keep at the same standard, if not higher, to be able to retaliate against the barriers that are coming at you in the market. We never said it was going to be easy. Yeah. But the thing is, if you decide that you want something, you've got to keep pushing through the barriers. If you don't think I have barriers in my real life, think again. I push harder than most people, though, and I'm more aggressive. And I've learned, even through building the confidence factor, how to be more aggressive than even I thought I was in the past. Because I saw myself in the past, when I do retrospective, introspective, it kind of looks like, Carol, you really only took $20 for that? Like, you did that then? And now I think, I'm like, how stupid you must have been at that time. So you got to just keep pushing through. Yeah. And I think if we support more women into doing that instead of lowering their standards, we'll be fine.
And I like that what you said there about, that aggression, being able to learn to build that aggression, to, ask for what you need, and being able to making sure that you actually get that thing. Mm-hmm. Actually, I pulled 2 things from what you said there. And the first thing is how that sounded a lot like how when we kind of stick to our comfort zone. When we do things, when when those barriers kind of come, we settle back and we kind of, I guess, hide a bit in our comfort zone so that we don't have to kind of step out of there. But you said that when you continue to push past those barriers, you then allow yourself to become stronger and stronger and open up, actually be able to have more capabilities and be able to do new things. And that, again, that really does tie back to comfort zone, and how when you do decide to step out of it a bit, you actually expand your comfort zone. You become more and more comfortable doing more and more things. And that's so key. I love that that tie there, because I think comfort zone is something that so many people struggle with. That it's something that so many people are just kind of stuck in, and they don't even realize it, that they're just kind of like hiding in there for as long as they possibly can, and not really knowing that they need to get out of there in order to get to where they want to be. But it's such an important point there. The other thing that you talked to, you can.
No, I'm listening. I'm appreciating.
The other thing you talked about there was how you shared a little bit of something that had to tie into value. And I think that when it comes to what we ask for, what we are confident enough to ask for, what we are confident enough to talk about, or how confident are we to stand up for ourselves, I think the biggest thing we need to understand is our value, what we have to offer. And you talked about something in there that really kind of triggered that in my mind, where value is such a key part of confidence. Like it's understanding your value is like a prerequisite of having confidence. And I think that's why I love your message when it comes to confidence, because it really ties into unique value, understanding what you uniquely bring to the table. Can you talk more about what value really offers when it comes to confidence, why it's so important to understand your value in order to attain confidence?
Value is a tradable skill. So unfortunately, we associate value with money. It's not. Value is a tradable skill. It literally is a commodity. If you think about it, the more valuable somebody is, the more people pay them.
Yeah.
And the more valuable you are, the more in demand you are. So, for example, there are several things that I don't do unless my value is honored. And I won't go into all of them, but there are a lot of things I just won't do unless my value is honored, because I have a tradable skill, and I believe every woman does. I think what we do is we think that value is associated with money, so we decide to either charge something or ask for something, and it's not that. It's a tradable skill that allows you to have access to people who really recognize it and then will trade dollars for that value. It has to be something unique that you can offer. So in other words, everyone can look. I'm a great dancer if you give me a chance, right? But my my way of thinking of my dance is valuable to me, right?
Yeah.
But if you saw it as something valuable, you'd want to hire me.
Right.
It'll say you're making a music video, you'd want to hire me. And I think what women need to do is they need to look at all of their tradable skills in the marketplace. I don't care whether you're still on a job or whether you're in your own business. What is your tradable skill? What is the thing that, if nothing else, you should be getting paid for every second of the day because only you deliver this at this premium quality? The next thing is you need to be able to assess a value on that tradable skill. So what's my tradable skill to dancing in your new music video? My tradable skill is $1,000 an hour. You know how many hours you can afford, and you can figure out, does Carol need to come on your music video? You have to be able to say, what's the value of that tradable skill? And then once you get the value for it, you need to consistently increase it, because you get better with practice and better with time, because now you know that you can confidently walk into a room, and now you no longer have to introduce yourself when you enter a room. You're just Carol. So you just put me on set. So in other words, there's no more, who are you? What are you here to do? Because you haven't marketed your tradable skill. Because again, going back to value, if you think it's money, that's great. But when you walk into a room and people seek you out, that's different. That means you're valuable. That means when you walk in, hey, Carol, I'm like, yes, I'm alive. You have to know your tradable skill. And I think that because we educate women in a way to think that value is money, we have women out here that call themselves bosses, and all they're in it for is money. And then when they're not making money, they're disappointed. It's because you have no tradable skill.
Yeah.
What is your tradable value on the index every single minute of the day? From the time you open your eyes in the morning, you have a tradable skill. Sometimes we just don't identify it. I know what mine are. You know what yours are. But every woman needs to know, what is your tradable skill? Because that is equating to your value. If you don't feel like you're making enough money, it's because you're not putting enough trade value out in the universe that people can be able to index to be able to pay you more. And I think if we can give women those tools, they'll be fine.
And that's so on point that, that when someone identifies their tradable skill, their unique value, really what they can offer, and then really market that in the right way, being able to put a number on that confidently, knowing what you value yourself as, what you value that skill at, being confident in that, and then of course being able to gradually put more numbers on, put more zeros at the end, you know what I'm saying? But I think that really is on point with when you are able to do that, people then look at you, how you look at yourself, or how you should be looking at yourself, looking at you when you walk into a room, like you said, like, oh, this is Carol, like, this is Gabrielle, like, they know who you are because you know who you are, and you know what you are worth, what you're worth, what you're valued at. I think that's so. I think that's something that, again, like you said, like people focus value on mostly on money without that that skill aspect of it. They think about value just as how much do I cost, rather how much am I worth. And I just, that's such a missing piece that needs to, maybe it's not so much a missing piece, but maybe a forgotten piece. It just needs something that needs to be remembered in people's minds, that people, you're only as valuable as what you can offer. But I really love what you talked about there. So I actually want to talk about your TED Talk. You did a TED Talk a little while ago, and in that you had addressed how confidence is basically an accessory. That's how you described it as. It's an accessory that you put on, and when you put it on, when you wear it, people are able to see. It's almost like it's almost as if you change the way people look at you, change the way people value you, or even change the way you look at yourself and what you value yourself, so to speak. Can you tell us more about what you mean by confidence is an accessory, and how can somebody put that accessory on after they know what to be confident in? How do they then really apply it?
So what I really meant by that, and I really wish I had more time on that part, but you know how TEDx organizers are. They cut you like, so I'm like, okay. So the issue is, for me personally, my greatest accessory is my hair. That is my thing. It's not something I do because I'm Carol Sankar. It's my habit. It's been my habit since, if I show you my high school photos, if I show you my junior, it's my thing, right? It's my thing. I nourish my hair. I bathe my hair in great mayonnaise. That's just who I am. That's my pastime. I stay a lot of time in the week in the hair salon. In saying that, although it sounds like a joke, when my hair is done, I smile more. I notice when my hair is not done, I'm upset. And I'm not upset because of anything you've done. You haven't done anything to me. I'm not in a bad mood. I just feel like my hair doesn't look good. And I don't show my best self. And I actually take it out on everyone around me, because I'm like, until I get whatever I need in my hair to get done, I'm not, when I go to the grocery, if my hair is not done, I don't feel like I shine. I feel like if you put on something, it doesn't shine. So what I meant by that, honestly, is when you wear confidence like an accessory, you show up differently. And when my hair is done, I show up differently. I show up like, oh my gosh, here I am. My hair is okay. Look at that. Like, that's how I show up. When the edges are not done, I'm not happy. And I think everyone can relate to having an accessory, whether it's lip gloss, whether it's a necklace, everybody can relate to it. But confidence is an accessory that, unlike an external accessory, it belongs to you. So unlike the thing you have to go and buy, like unlike me having to sit in a hairdresser every day or every week or whatever, this belongs to you. And when you actually endorse the thing that belongs to you, you show up in the world differently. You actually answer people's questions differently. You walk down the street differently. When people contact you, you're willing to say, I'm an introvert, but I could be an extrovert at this moment because I'm in my lane. I'm doing my thing. I'm doing the thing I've been called to do. I think that what we do is we hide the most beautiful accessory because either we're afraid it's arrogance or a few other words. And so what we do is we dummy down, and we just give the part that we think other people need to see. Instead of saying, my best accessory belongs to me. Like I buy the hair. That's something I have to go out and get. That's an external. But the internal accessory, you don't let anybody else see it. You don't let anybody else get close to you. You advertise your fear all day. And then, of course, when people don't notice that you have a marketable skill or something of value, they don't ask you, because simply you show that you're too fearful. So in saying that, what I really want people to take away from that comment really is that you own confidence. You own it. Whatever it is that you bring to the marketplace, whatever your tradable skill is, you own it. Nobody else has to see it but you. But when someone asks you a question about your tradable skill, because you're great at it, you should show up knowing that you're great at it, instead of being like, well, I don't know, because sometimes in our verbiage and our posture, we show fear. And so in making sure that you're not shrugging your shoulders the wrong way, you're not smiling, you're not coming across as though you don't have an answer, we actually have to give in to this whole thing of, what's your most beautiful accessory? It belongs to you. Confidence belongs to you. We're either born with it or we're not, but you either believe in yourself or you don't. And that's how the market responds to you.
And I love what you said there about when you don't realize the confidence that you own, you are then marketing fear. And that's so I mean, I can understand you looking at myself, and then I can also see it in like other people, where you can recognize, you can see when somebody is not 100% confident, or even 50% confident in what they're providing, who they are, what they're saying. You can just tell. You can see that they're fearful. You can see that they're shaking. You can see that they're uneasy or they're unsure. You can just see that, and it's blatant. And I think that is, that's one of the most detrimental things you can do as a brand yourself, is to represent fear. You're trying to be, you're trying to sell something to somebody, but if you look like you don't even believe in the product yourself, right?
Yeah,
then what? No, go ahead.
No, I'll even share this strange example with you. I was talking about this recently. So I live in North Carolina, and we have to inspect our cars, depending on the county, every 6 months, but mostly in the state every year. So maybe 2 years ago, I bought a brand new car, and I forgot to get it inspected at the dealership. And that's a requirement here. Like, you got to come out the dealership with the inspection. I forgot. I was so anxious to drive. You have 30 days. You got to figure it out if you decide to jump off the lot without it. So I was like, okay, whatever. When I drove off the lot with the car, I went to my local inspection place, which most of them are mechanics, just like any inspection place. I drive in, I'm like, I forgot to get the inspection at the dealer. So he's like, oh, okay, so he's supposed to plug something up. No, I have no idea about cars, right? He's supposed to plug something up, plug something. And he said there's a code that's still on the car that the dealer never took off. And he goes on, I swear, I can't even make this up. He goes on Google, how to fix code on. I was like, now, that's how you sell fear. I'm watching you on Google with my brand new 8-mile new car, right? On Google, trying to fix my car. So as I ran, because the thing is, now you're selling me fear. What if you do something to my car that's going to make it not run? What if you don't know what you're doing, but you have a sign that says, I inspect cars for your state. So you have the sign up that says I'm confident enough to do the job. But when I got in, you don't know the job that you claim that you want to do. So you have no tradable skills. So as you're typing in Google, and what you shouldn't have done is do it in front of me. Go in the back office and put your laptop in your lap and you get how to fix. I was like, oh my God, no, you didn't do that. So that's what women do. We will actually we will do it in front of other people without intention, but we don't recognize that that's the reason why we don't get ahead. Somebody will see you how to be a entrepreneur in front of everybody else, and that's how you think that that's confidence. That's not how it is. The man had a sign that says, I inspect cars for Kannapolis County. I live in Kannapolis County. I think that you inspect cars that go in. And then you can't do it, right? Yeah. And that's what we do as women.
And I mean, even with that too, is like, even if you did know how to do majority of, how to inspect a car, that one instant made you feel as if you don't know at all what you're doing.
You don't know anything.
And that's the key. Like, even if you show just that hint of like not knowing, people are not going to believe or take you seriously or trust in what you're providing if you don't have the confidence in, even this little aspect. And I mean, and I will be honest, like, I have done that myself, like, shown fear, so to speak, where, multiple times, like, I'll go on stage, I have a new presentation, or I have to say something new to the crowd or whatever that, the company just decided that we needed to say or whatever. And I'm not quite sure what I need to say or how to say it. And I'm like stuttering over my words. And I'm like shaking like, oh crap, I have this all wrong. And I think that in those moments, like, the biggest thing that we can do is like confidently fake it till we make it, And even if we're not like 100% there yet, we have to stand up straight. We have to say our words clearly. We have to try and say whatever we can and not put it on full display. Like you said, he could have gone to the back and Googled it, and then you wouldn't have known a thing.
Exactly. Googling my brand new baby, and it wasn't like a hoopty car. This is like my dream car. And you're Googling my baby.
Right, exactly. And I think, like, that is just so important, especially if someone's already paid you, you know, like to do something. Like if you're a speaker and you've been paid to go up on stage and you're hesitating and you're nervous and you're not, you know, up there doing what you know you're there to do, that just completely, it devalues what, you know, what you said that you were worth. And that analogy right there that was perfect. That story right there really that put that all in line, how important that need to understand that, you know, the confidence that you need to have in what you're putting out there, what you're putting on display. And even if you aren't 100% confident in it, you still have to be able to show that you are. If that makes sense. You know, you still have to be able,
like you said, fake it till you make it. Go in the back and type in your stuff and then come out and make me think that I got it. You know, but a lot of us don't. I think, you know what, too, in all honesty, as women, we know that if I said to you right now, Gabrielle, I'm not feeling so well, I know I can get sympathy out of you. And so what we do is we portray fear because we can get sympathy because of fear. So if I told you I don't feel well today, I know you're going to say, oh my gosh, are you okay? And then I'm going to be like, yeah, I'm okay, but my nose hurts. And then you're going to say, we want to do this again another day. And because we know we can get sympathy. Meanwhile, you have no idea that I landed maybe 3 hours ago and I had to do a run around. That's not your concern. Like what we do.
Too. No, I mean, even with that, it's like, even like you told me that you had just came in, and that just shows like, oh yeah, you got stuff going on, and that's I think that, you know, being able, if you say something, because I know a few times where, you know, I come in from another event, you know, flying on a plane, coming back to another event that's on the same day, and instead of saying, oh, I'm so exhausted, I don't want to be here kind of thing, like up on stage, instead of just like, oh, I just flew in from so-and-so. And that shows more like a dominance. Like, yeah, I just came in here and I'm still here and I'm doing my thing, you know?
Exactly.
I think, people, like what you said, we got to stop looking for sympathy and start looking for, I think, instead of sympathy, we should just be looking for like that nothing, actually.
Nothing.
Yeah, nothing. You really shouldn't be looking for anything. You should just be looking to do your job and doing it well. And hopefully being able to, you know, do what you're there to do in the best of your ability.
Exactly.
So, that's really on the nose. I love that. I think another thing that you said before when you're talking about your accessory, you're talking about your hair. I actually really loved how poignant that was, because like we were talking about before, how when you can tell when somebody isn't confident in themselves, you can tell when somebody is marketing fear. It's that feeling when people can go out their entire lives not realizing their unique value, and therefore not realizing how the confidence that they have within them already. People can go out their entire life just marketing fear and not really able to see what they're fully capable of because of that. And I think that's very disturbing. And I think it's sad, because we have so much potential within us, within our unique values, and then being confident in those unique values, and to go your entire life without even being able to tap into that a little bit it's sad. I want to know how can you say, like, I don't know exactly how to put this, because I think it's a difficult question to answer, and maybe not even just like, it's probably not like a one answer for anybody, but when it comes to someone's unique value and being able to have confidence in it, how can somebody have confidence? I hope this makes sense, but how can somebody have confidence in their unique value? Like, how can somebody have confidence in the value that they present? Does that?
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah. I think that the main thing that you have to do is, when you believe in it, nothing can really stop you. To be honest with you, when you believe in something, nothing can really stop you. So going back to the hair thing, when I know it's the right style for me, nothing can stop me from feeling like Diana Ross. Like, there's a song playing and I feel like I'm coming. Like, there's something that says, that's you.
Yeah.
I think that how you can become more confident in knowing what your unique value is knowing that you are irreplaceable, or that there's a replacement value if you decide that you're going to be replaced. So once you get to that factor and saying, for example, I believe I'm one of the best real estate builders in the world. I'm never going to take that away from myself. I don't care what you say. It doesn't matter what you think. It doesn't matter who else you see. I think I'm great at what I do. what I also know is that I'm one of a few women who actually build spec homes. So what that means is that you tell me what specifications you want, I'll build you a house that really fits your bill. With that note, with that in mind, I know who I service and I know what I do and I know what kind of elements I bring to a spec, and that actually helps me to be able to define it. Now, if you don't get a spec home from me, then you're just getting a general house, and that's not going to be great. So I know how to be able to present my unique value and the replacement cost of not having it. So you're not going to get a house to your specifications because you didn't build with me. So what I'm saying is, when you know how great you are, it comes across just that way, and you don't need to change who you are. I think we have to get to a level of not being apologetic for being confident, because we're more worried about being arrogant than confident. And I think that is sometimes where the fine, tricky line is. So when you know you're confident, it literally radiates when someone asks you a question that's in your lane. As you ask me about how to program the new Samsung 8 or whatever that thing is called, out of my lane, have no idea, call the kid, I don't know how to do it. Can it take pictures and can I text? That's all I need to know. But when I'm in my lane, I know what I'm doing. And if you ask me questions in that lane, and if I don't know what I'm doing, here's how confident people respond. I'm going to get you the answer and I'll get right back to you. Instead of, I don't know, you know what, ask Katie. And no, I'll get you the answer. I'll call Katie because I'm the leader here and I know who to call to get you the answer. So I'll make sure I'll frame the question to get you the answer, and I'm going to call you back and make sure I have it for you. I think we're more worried about not having the answer. My whole thing is, I don't have the answer, but I know the person who do, and I'll get you the person who could fix your Samsung 8 Note, whatever. Yeah. I'm not a techie, and I'll find you the person who's a techie, and I'll work on that issue for you, and I'll get right back to you, as opposed to trying to take over everything on our own. And I think that that's where women fail, is we try to do too much. We're super women all the time. We are trying to solve everybody's problem, world peace, world hunger, our business, our family. We are really trying to do too much. And then on top of that, we have the nerve to try to take on our own issues and our own vulnerabilities. And the older that we grow, the vulnerabilities become more weighted. You're like, okay, I gained 5 pounds today. I can't fit in a dress. This is ridiculous. We're worried about all kinds of other issues. Yeah. And so when you're confident, it shows. And when you're not, you always want to make sure that you look like you know the answer no matter what. And it'll come through.
I like that, you said that it radiates off of you once you know. And when someone asks a question that you know all about, it's in your field, it just radiates off you. It comes right off you. People can see it, you can feel it. And what I got from that is really like, it's a sense of acceptance that you have to have in what you do. A sense of acceptance in the confidence that you have, being able to accept how confident you are in the field, and being able to then present that without feeling like you have a large ego, or you're So right. I like that. I like that because I try, like I something that I know I need to work on is being able to stop thinking that I'm being egotistical, or that I might be like, I can't talk about myself so much. That's so wrong or whatever. And I think that it's a key part of building the confidence that you need, is understanding that when you talk about yourself, you're just showing people how much you're worth. There's certain ways that you do it that you really probably shouldn't do it, but there's a certain line when it's just like, you're in a business situation, you're speaking, you're doing whatever it is you're doing. It's that's the point in time that you go ahead and talk about yourself. That's the point in time that you show your confidence, show what you know, represent yourself. And I like that.
Also remember this. Talking about yourself is not a bad thing. Who else is supposed to talk about you? I can't do it. Yeah. Nobody else can talk about you better than you can. And sometimes I think we're more worried about not giving everybody else in the room a chance to describe themselves. But I hate to say this, but men talk about themselves all day. And we don't ever interrupt them. They talk about their football game, their basketball game, their wives, where they drove, what car. They get that chance to be egotistical, and we laugh at those jokes. But when we do it, we're worried about how other people will perceive us. And you have to worry that fine line into us being worried about what other people think is not defining you as settling because you're in a conversation with people who can't handle it. If those people can't handle it, they really shouldn't be listening to you in the first place, because you can't talk about anything you don't know. You know you better than anybody else. And so like you, I'm in situations where I go in rooms And it's hard because I'm not around other women who've done what I've done. And so if I'm going to talk about me today and the fact that, yeah, I'm jet setting this week and next week and the week after and the week after that and the week after that and the week, yes, I'm just that important.
Yeah.
It's not about me saying that I'm better than you.
Yeah.
That's just my life. What else can I talk about? I can't talk about things I don't know. I don't know who won the PGA. I don't care what's going on in the news, but I could talk about Carol Sankar very well. Let me tell you what Carol Sankar's next 4 weeks looks like. It's busy. It's busy. And so Gabrielle needs to remember that Gabrielle needs to talk about Gabrielle.
Right.
And she can't talk about anybody else. And if anybody can't handle it, they should not be around Gabrielle. There's nothing wrong with that.
And I even think with that is also when you decide to be the most confident person in the room, to be able to talk about yourself, then I think you're one of the most memorable people. The person that, talks the loudest, the person that, is, that's the strongest is the one that's remembered. Like, you're the one that, even if it's in a bad way, people always say any press is good press. So being remembered, I think, is definitely key. And then, to be remembered for the, what you're good at, to be remembered for your busy schedule, to be remembered for, how in demand you are. Those are good things to be remembered for. So that's really key. I want to now talk about your book. You wrote a book that's actually international bestseller. It's by the same name of your company, Confidence Factor for Women in Leadership. Can you tell us about this book that you wrote, and tell us about the importance, why you felt like it was an important project for you to embark upon?
I didn't plan on writing a book, not at all. Wasn't what I planned on doing.
Yeah.
I had been taking all of the conversations I've been having with women during the time I was doing the Confidence Factor, and as my findings. So literally, I was sitting down every night and I was dialoguing my findings, and it's kind of like a thesis. It was a lot of relief. It was like, today we talked to the 100 women, and these are the things I found today. So I found a way to translate the thesis into real life stories so that it didn't sound thesis-y.
Right.
And because I put a lot of, point A, point B, vector scale, and I wanted to make it real world English and make it such that women can see themselves in any part of these stories, because these were really things that we were experiencing during that 4-year journey. So the book has nothing to do with me. It has something to do with all the women we studied, all of their behaviors, a lot of the self-sabotaging behaviors. I talk about reality television. I talk about the effects of reality television on most of our subjects in the Confidence Factor. I talked about their inner circle, who they were hanging around, what they were talking about, where they were hanging out, the value of networking. I talked about all the things that we were having problems with getting women to get on board. And, of course, procrastination, self-belief, self-doubt. And what they allowed to be marketed to them. So the Confidence Factor for Women in Leadership, the actual book, is just literally me taking the situations we were going through in the study and then converting them so that it could be real world English so that women understood. At some point, there's a chapter in there for every woman, because all of these were real women who were going through these issues. And these were very educated, high-level women. If they were going through it, I know that everybody else feels it. And so, I talk about education and, our parents, because, of course, as a Caribbean kid, the culture has a different aspect to it. The old world, you see, your family may not have the old world aspect. I have that old world. Oh God, they must make up your bed, children must go to bed by 6 and all kind of thing, and pray to God and make hallelujah. So I have that old world Trinidadian thinking. Yeah. And I talk about, sometimes part of it is the cultural aspect of being a woman, and sometimes the voices I used to hear in my head of my grandmother who raised me, and how she would say, wear your skirt down to your ankle, don't go and talk to no man, and don't let no man talk back to you, and don't have no confidence. It's just like, okay, all right. And sometimes, ironically, I go to sleep and I still hear those voices, and I still, at my age, still fight the stereotypical belief that a Caribbean kid can do certain things. And so when I go back to Trinidad at times, it's like, I can't believe this is where I came from. I really just don't believe it. So I wrote the book according to all of those principles, and I bottled them all up and spewed it out in the book. I don't even know why I did it, but I did it.
As you describe it, I mean, it sounds like something that everybody needs to read whether woman or man, I think it's a book that any person needs to read, because I think we do need to be able to pinpoint what it is within ourselves that's prohibiting us from being as confident as we can be and what we can produce. And of course, it's we were talking about how this confidence issue is something that women deal with more so than men, but men still deal with it as well.
Yeah.
And I think, what you're talking about, with this book is how, you said that it's really for anybody, in the sense that there's a chapter for any woman in there, and I think that is important that we are able to just kind of be able to pinpoint, like, okay, this I have a problem with. This I need to work on. This I need to clarify. I think that's a huge part of self-awareness, of a clarity for yourself, to be able to cleanse yourself, and be able to open up a path for you to be more confident in what you can produce, but by knocking out all of those disruptors and all those barriers that are clogging you.
Yeah. But I still do it to this very day, and it's still, every day I have to listen to what voice is talking to Carol today. Is it the voice of negativity? Is it her real voice? Is it your grandmother? Is it your mother? Is it your mother-in-law? Is it your husband? Like, you have to listen to the voice.
It seems, but it's in there.
It's in there. You gotta check the voice. Like, shut up. Shut up. Today is my day. I gotta do what I gotta do, and really just perform at your best level. Because I think what we don't do is we don't eliminate the voice. We take the voice with us. I take the voice and I tell it what to do, and I make sure that it doesn't go with me throughout the day. Because there are times when, if you let the voice accompany you like company, it becomes your accountability partner too. So if you let the voice of lack accompany you to your next meeting, it will become your accountability partner. You won't speak up. You'd be like, okay, because I keep hearing the voice, I brought it with me. Now you got to shut it up so you're able to do what you've been called to do, because that's what leadership is all about.
I love that. It's really, I know people struggle, for me, like, people, not really for me, but many people struggle with that external fear of being able to do, start a new project, or, even if it's just like going up on stage and speaking, those are like those external fears. But then you think about those internal fears, just being able to speak up, to use your voice because you're afraid of what someone might think about you, what someone might say about you. Those kinds of things are the things that we really need to knock out in order even to be able to do any of those external fear. To get out of all those external fears, we have to start with those internal fears, because I think those are the things that are really locking us in place.
They're hurting us, and they hurt us for very long periods of time. And some of it is generational. So it'll hurt you as you grow. I say every 10 years I have to do an internal cleansing of my mind. Every decade I have to really clear out the voices I heard for the last 10 years in my mind. And the older I get, I realize how many voices I have allowed to hold me back in the previous 10. And I make sure that those don't go with me in the next 10. And so, 4 decades of me making sure that I'm always clearing out the voices in my mind and making sure that I don't bring anything with me into the next, because I'm always growing. And I think growth is something that if you ignore it too long, you'll never grow. You always have to know, what do you have to do to clear out, and what do you have to do to clean out your own mental garden that will help you to be able to get the weeds out, and so you can be more progressive and more productive moving forward.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with that. I think, that I would do it yearly, personally, just because I feel
you have more time than I do.
I really. Different, yeah. No, I feel like if anybody just, like, whatever you can, like, clear out your brain. But I like that, just being able to do that, making a defined time for you to clean out your brain and to make sure you hear your own voice above all else. I like that. I like that a lot. So I want to know, for me, I look at our society now. I look at where we are as women. I see progress. I see how there is a development of confidence in a woman's voice. There is a development of the ability to be strong enough to take take those high power positions, to walk up and say what you need to say. And I want that progression to continue. What do you think that we need to do as individuals and as a society to continue that progress?
I may not be as optimistic as you, so please forgive me if there's a little bit of pessimism in my voice and maybe my eye roll. I don't think that we have as much progress as we think we do. Okay. I think we have what I like to call, I give a lot of talks about this, where we have glasses. We have the glass cliff, the glass escalator, the glass elevator, the glass moderators that claim that they're our sponsors, and we also have the leadership cliff altogether, where we're allowing women to speak up, but as long as they stay on the glass. And so we don't know if the glass is underneath our foot or above our head a lot of times. And so I may not be as optimistic as you because I've probably sat in enough rooms to know that some women are standing on glass, and I know it. And the thing is, because they don't get off the glass, they think they've gotten to a certain level. The problem is they don't know that if they smash that glass, they'll go right back down. And it doesn't take much for us to be able to go back down. So here's how I think that progress is being made. More women have to know where they stand. They have to be very cognizant of where they stand. I think that a lot of us think that because we've gotten to a certain level, we think we're standing as peers, and we're not. Yeah. So if you look down and the floor looks like it's shattering, you're just not standing where you need to. Women are in society, especially in American society, we are in rooms where women are being interjected in very high level rooms at a rate that is just not as common with men. We are being interrupted. When we lose our seat at the table, it's very rarely replaced by another woman. We only have 4.6% of the market share as far as women CEOs in the market. So what that tells me is, and then those numbers haven't changed in almost 20 years. And what that's telling me is that a lot of women have no clue how to use their voice to be able to stand. So when I get in a room, my whole thing is I look at my feet and I make sure that I'm standing not on glass, that I'm going to be able to offer value. I think women need to be very careful that they're not speaking in hollow rooms. And I think that that's a huge proportion. If you're hearing an echo back, nobody's listening to you. So you're not in a room where you can affect change. If people are interjecting you and interrupting you, you're in a hollow room. Yeah. If you're in a room, if you're sitting at the table and everybody's saying, but I don't think so, you're in a hollow room. Be very careful that you're not in the wrong room and hoping that you've gotten into leadership and then you're smashing back through the glass to go right back down. Because when we go down, you know how hard it is for us to get back up? Exactly. It's the hardest journey.
It just kind of closes back up.
It closes right back up, and now the ceiling is back over you. Now you have to figure out if you can take the glass elevator, the glass escalator back up. So it's always that cycle of a journey. So maybe my pessimism comes from the fact that I'm consistently an advocate that enough women are not in the right rooms. They're in rooms of their comfort. They're rooms where people look like them. They're in rooms where people think like them. They're not in rooms where they're obstructing their view with being able to say, I'm not hearing an echo. I'm in the right room. If you're not hearing an echo, you're in the right room. If you're not being interrupted, if you're being valued, people are saying, oh my gosh, thank you so much. I didn't think about that. You're in the right room. When you're in a room where people are saying, I don't think so, you're not there yet. So I need more women to advocate to get into rooms where the disciplines of the opinions are going to be different, where people are going to teach you things. I don't think we learn. I think what we think is we get to a certain level and we're like, okay, I'm good. No. Learn, consistently learn. You got to sharpen that sword all the time. And if you're not sharpening, you'll be the dullest person trying to cut through a piece of bread and can't figure out why your knife is not serrating. And there's a problem here. And I think that we got to be very careful that we have not educated women to a point where we have allowed them to sit in the wrong rooms and they think that they've made it. So that's the part of the problem that I have. The second part of the problem that I think is part of the solution is when women get into the right rooms, shh, don't say a word. Listen. Yes. We gotta be in a learning mode. Yes. So what I do is I sit in rooms with men all the time and I listen to all their secrets. It's like listening to people argue. You want to know what the argument's about? You listen with a glass thing. Listen, shh, don't speak up too early because you may not have a point that's valuable yet. But if you learn how the players in the game play the game, you study how they play. So 1 or 2 times you need to go in a room where you're not the smartest one in the room. You're not the most vocal one in the room, but you're the learner in the room. And people will pay attention to the fact that you're paying attention to the fact that you're learning. And then once you start to gravitate toward that, then last but not least, teach others what you learned when you went in the room. And that's how we get more women to the top. What we're not doing is when we do get in the room, I'm not coming back and teaching Gabrielle what I learned. I'm not coming back and teaching Anne what I learned. What I'm doing is I'm keeping it all for myself. Yep, I learned a new skill, a new secret. That's it. Yeah. We have become selfish. And what we are not doing is we're not teaching all of our skills. We're teaching just enough for you to be interested and maybe we could sell you a coaching package with that and then move on. No. I got to teach you what I learned, because in order for me to be able to see more women in the room, you've got to know just as much as the other players in the room. So if I don't sound like I'm optimistic, it's not for any other reason, but I am hearing women talking, but I'm hearing echoes. I am hearing women walking in high heels, but I'm hearing the glass shatter underneath their feet. I am hearing women trying to get, clicking on the elevator to get up, but the elevator hasn't come back down because nobody that reached the top is pushing it back down so that I can get the next woman to come up here with me. If we get to be unselfish with the gift of inclusion, we will have more women included.
Yeah, I don't think you're being pessimistic at all. I think that's a very realistic point of view that you have there. It's, I think, 100% accurate. I look at what you said there, and I really relate to a lot of those points when it comes to the importance, first of all, of knowing what room you're in and if you're in the right room. I love what you said there, because I think that is is so key to know that if you're in the room with everybody smarter than you, and you're able to learn from these people, or if you're in a room where it's just, I don't want to say everybody's dumber than you or whatever, but you're just, you're in the room where you're just not supposed to be, where you're not learning what you need to learn, where you're not having the voice that you need to have, you're not making the impact that you need to make. And then, of course, the aspect of when you do get to that right room, listening, that's something that I've taken throughout my entire life. My mom says I'm a very teachable person because I try my very darndest to learn from every single person that I ever meet, whether it's a negative experience or a positive experience. I try to learn from every single person so that I can learn something new and not have to go through those experiences. So something that somebody else went through, I don't have to go through because I learned from what they went through. And so I think that's just so key. I think that's how we are able to elevate ourselves, by just listening. And then when we do have something to say, we can blow the whole room away because we have gathered all this information, like, boof.
So like when you open your mouth, everybody's like, oh,
exactly.
Because you sat and you learned, you didn't talk over people. You got to be in rooms where, and I wouldn't say this when we're in rooms where people are dumber than us. I just think that we're in rooms where we're in our comfort zone. So if you're in a room where everybody kind of knows the same information, you're not going to grow. And so you have to be in rooms where people are so much smarter than you. They've accomplished more than you. I love being around people who are so much older than me, more wise than I am. And all I do is glean from them. I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm an understudy of greatness at this particular moment. And that's what I aspire to be.
Yeah, we can't be intimidated by that at all. I totally agree with that. I love this conversation. This is really, really great. I think, and personally, I learned a lot. And I have taken a lot of mental notes. I'll have to go back and listen to this once it's all edited and take some more notes, because I think it was just, it's a poignant conversation. I think it's something that everybody needs to be reminded of. Anybody that's going through this needs to work on developing confidence, that's working on building their self-confidence right now, building confidence in their brands, whatever it is. This is such a poignant conversation that anybody can learn from. So I really appreciate you being on here. I really appreciate you sharing and being very honest with your points of views. I think it was just on the nose. Everything that you said was really on the nose, and I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, before you go, I don't want to let you go without asking you, is there anything that you want to share, any upcoming events, any projects that you maybe want to talk to our audience about?
No, I'm kind of retired for the rest of 2017.
Nice.
As far as my own stuff, I have a lot of stuff that I'll be at in the upcoming weeks. I will be at a few events in the DMV area as well as in Florida, I know. But nothing coming up. But at any point, I want women to really get out of their own way. If there's nothing else I want to leave, please get out of your own way. There's so much more room at the top. The bottom is full. If you've ever been in a plane and you look down and you start realizing your house is so much smaller than you thought it was, it looks big when you're in it, but from the air, it looks like a small little dot. And that's what I'm so concerned with. Women are so concerned with the dot on the ground that they don't get to get the nosebleed in the sky that is leadership. And I think that we can do that.
Love that. Thank you so much, Miss Carol. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of the UV Effect podcast. I hope that you enjoyed this interview with Miss Carol Sankar. If you're listening to this episode on my website, GabrielleJordanInspires.com/the UV Effect, please be sure to scroll down below and check out her links to her website and her book, The Confidence Factor, as well as her social media links as well. So also, while you're here, be sure to leave a comment letting me know how you liked this episode, what you learned from the episode, and anything else that you want to share. If you're listening to this on iTunes, SoundClouds, or Stitchers, be sure to leave a comment there as well and subscribe. You can also head over to Instagram and follow us on our IG page, The UV Effect, and check out some of the quotes that we pulled from this episode and fun little clips and things that we sometimes post over in that little Instagram Snap 24-hour feature. I can never remember what that's called, but check us out there and follow us on IG and be a part of our family. Thank you for listening, and I hope you'll join me next week. See you then. Bye.